Christians, we all know by now that California is all ablaze. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I love that city of LA, and I love California, even though I don't live there now. Now, people are going to look at this fire as they look at every incident that we have. And there are those who are going to use it to be footstools for accomplishing agendas that the majority of us won't know. All they will talk about is how now we need to allocate more money for climate change. All they're going to talk about is how many bodies were stockpiled, and that'll be a footnote. People will forget about that next week. They're going to talk about how many billion-dollar homes were burned down, how many billions of dollars were burned down in the accumulation of all these homes that were destroyed and the land that was destroyed. There's going to be talk about we're going to rebuild. Everything one way or the other is going to affect our capitalistic mindset. This is all they're going to talk about. But let me tell you something. California is such an important state in this country. It is a big state. A lot of things happen there. Wicked things as well as good things. But what I will say is this. All of the elements, fire, wind, rain, water, sleet, snow, hail, all these things are part of God's arsenal. Yes, his arsenal. And he uses them at his will to wake up and open men's minds, directing them not to look across the valleys, not to look at the mountains, not to look at the all these things that are being destroyed. He wants men to look up. The tragedy is not the fire. The tragedies are not the hurricanes and the storms. The real tragedy is the sin of man. Now, people are going to look at me, look at this, hear this, and laugh and tell me it's stupid. They're going to mock it. They're going to scorn it. They're going to do what they always do. But one thing that man has historically always done, and he is incapable of learning from, is that everything that happens is a result of the sin of man. This is no exception. And make no mistake about it. These things that are happening, people are always looking, who started it? Where did it start? Where did this end? All these things, they start asking all these questions about the origins of the fire, the origins of the storm. How did this start? And how is this changing the landscape or whatever? It is all God's doing. Yes, I'm telling you. And there are going to be many Christians who are going to think that what I'm saying is a morbid statement. Then maybe you haven't really read the scriptures. Maybe you haven't really read the scriptures. You read something like Sodom and Gomorrah, and you treat it as if it is just some fantasy story. But if you were living there when it happened, you would not be thinking that. If you lived there when it happens, you would be thinking like you're thinking right now in response to what I'm saying. There is no way on earth you could have believed that you would believe if you were living in the days of Noah that this flood was going to be something that God brought on, or the departing of the Red Sea. If you were in those situations, you would probably be thinking what many of you are thinking right now. Oh, this is just climate change. Oh, this is just an unusual, uncharacteristic event taking place on our planet. No. Everything that is happening, everything that will happen, it is happening because God is causing it to happen. It is falling from his hand directly. I only care that this message reaches those who are straddling the fence and who are contemplating or maybe doubting in some way where they stand with God, where they stand with Christ. Turn on the news and look at those fires. You can't tell me that the providence of God has not orchestrated this entire event. Blocking roads off so fire engines can't get in. Making the wind blow so hard that planes and helicopters are hesitant and reticent to fly above to drop water on it. It goes on and on. Just listen to the news. Men are always trying to incorporate or trying to interpret the Bible by what's happening in the news. But this is one of those things when you start looking at what we consider to be natural events. These come from God. But all things come from God. God is sovereign and almighty. He is in sovereign control over everything. There is nothing that happens that he has not decreed, being the sovereign God of the universe, to happen. This event, no exception. We're talking now some of you will say, well, that's just horrible. You're saying that God is the one responsible behind those who perish and those who die as a result of these things? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. It matters little from the sovereign side of God, the number of people who die. Why? Because he is the one that gives life. And if he can take life, even your own life, he can give it back to you. How does he do that? By drawing you to Christ. We are already dead. Mankind is already dead. The issue for you now is, do you want to live? This is the issue. These fires are a foretaste. This is just an appetizer as to what God can actually do and will do. And the fires that we look at should remind us of what Peter talks about when Christ returns, that the elements will burn with a fervent heat. We are told that those who die in their sins are going to perish in eternal fire. Everlasting fire. Contrary to what these universalists want to tell you, men are going to perish in an eternal flame. But the flame that men are going to burn in is far different and far worse than what we see happening in my home state of California. So Christians and unbelievers, under the sound of my voice, if you are hearing this, understand these things fall from God's hands. They don't happen because he knows they're going to happen. He knows they're going to happen because he's the one who orchestrates them to happen. Whether these things start at the hand of a man, whether they start by what we consider to be natural causes, however it happens, the means by which they happens are due to their being the instrumentation that God uses to make them happen. And no doubt about it, men are going to look at this whole thing, it's going to blow over, and it's going to mean nothing. But I'm hoping it means something to at least one or two of you out there. This is God's doing, and it too is marvelous in our eyes. When I look at it, I see nothing but warnings. I see nothing but God screaming from heaven to rattle the souls of men to look upward and give him the attention. Don't look to the fire. Look to him who sends it and ask for mercy. Be provoked and be persuaded.